What are rich people problems like? I'm late, but have a specific one. I know a few people from extremely rich families. I see a terrible outcomes with third generation wealth. When dad is super successful, the kid doesn't have to do much but at least sees someone working. When that kid, who doesn't do crap, then has kids, his kids are completely unmoored from reality. It's a lonely dark existence when you are completely incompatible with society. That's the statistic about generational wealth. 70% of people are broke by the second generation, 90% by the third. I could only speculate as to how the fourth generation reacts to hear great grandpa was rich and then grandpa and dad not making it happen. It's actually never occurred to me to ask what happens after the third generation, so I don't know if anyone has studied that. Pablo Escobar's problem with rats eating his stacks of money faster than he could deposit them would be a good poster child for this. Also water damage from all the money he buried improperly. Best friend's family growing up won $4.50 mil on the lottery, while previously already owning 6 coffee franchises and doing decently. I remember his father making me and his son constantly sift through the mail. His mailbox was crammed to capacity almost every day with offers and donation requests. He actually did donate frequently, but that only prompted more requests. Unfortunately, both of his sons became H addicts, which was enabled by easy access to money. I have a cousin that's a CPA and he's accepted the lottery for 2 different winners because they wanted to remain anonymous. I would too, because of stuff like you just said. I have 2 friends who were born into the $100 M plus club, and the main things I've seen are guilt that they were born into a situation by random dumb luck that other people would dream of, and then the weight of obligation to use the gift they were given to do things that don't satisfy them, prioritizing the happiness of others over themselves, a paranoia around friendships, relationships, not knowing whether people even a little bit love them for their money, a feeling of inadequacy that no matter how successful or brilliant you are, you'll never be as successful as your parents. Feeling that your problems are not as important as real problems, even though to you they are of maximum importance and emotional weight. Generally it messes with your self-image. It's hard to find out who you are without money being a part of it. My wife's friend is in that club and her teenage daughter is pretty much ready to get kicked out of school and has severe depression. Those two are related. I'm pretty sure that list has a lot to do with it. This is from a conversation I had with a guy I met on vacation. He had grown up fabulously rich, but he never really saw his parents that much, especially when he was a kid, as they were both high-achieving workaholics. Instead, he had a maid that had been there for as long as he could remember, put him to bed at night, breakfast in the morning, etc. So in his mind, he had 2 moms. The one that he met for dinner a few days a week, that demanded he brushed his hair and put on presentable clothes, and his real mom, the one that was always there, actually taking care of him. When he was 5 years old, the maid quit. She had gotten a better job somewhere else, and was looking forward to spending more time with her actual kids. And everybody was happy for her. Everybody smiled, and told him to be happy she was moving on to something better, as she hugged him goodbye and happily walked out forever. He lost his real mom, and he wasn't even allowed to feel bad about it. I met this guy when he was 27, and he was still struggling with it. Not rich myself, but I have a family member who earns low 7 figures annually. Biggest problem they've struggled with is that our whole family comes from being poor and they're the one that made it. They've had to cut off entire parts of the family, including siblings and parents, because everyone just wants stuff from them. One of their parents demanded they buy them a home because, "You owe me for raising you." It's even worse from their siblings. They have keep their social media feed on a week-long delay, so if they travel anywhere that other family members are, they won't hit them up with a new scheme or asking for a loan. It's terrible to watch. Trust. Is anyone doing things because they actually care for you or because of your money? It is a real problem for rich guys I know looking for marriage. Sex is one thing, actually have someone love you is another. The other day, a client of my dad's wrote a $3,000 check for my medical bills. I've been sick for a while and it came up in some casual conversation. The client recommended a place for medical testing. We went, got a consultation, but the price was too high to justify without insurance coverage. The client calls the place, sees we haven't done the tests yet, and he writes my dad a check for the full amount. $3K doesn't sound like a lot compared to some of these stories, but this may change the course of my life. His justification: I have more money than I can ever spend. I have a rich friend who just offered to cover all of my bills to get treatment for my chronic illness. It's nothing to him, but it will literally save my life. It's insane. I used to work in fine art shipping, and rich people constantly call and ask if we could remind them which house we'd shipped their expensive artwork to. They would have trouble remembering. When I was in rehab, we were in an outside area doing a group session when we were interrupted by a helicopter landing in the parking lot. The guy ended up being in my primary group as well, and he told me that he had to take his helicopter from Philly, as it had been a last-minute decision to check himself in, and the airports local to the rehab was too small for his private plane to land there. So, I'd have to say, your town's airport is too small for my plane, is a problem I doubt I'll ever have. That's some Wolf of Wall Street crap right there. My boss was complaining the other day about having to clear all the junk out of his hangar to make room for his new plane, so I guess that? Not being able to understand what money means to people below their financial status. I'm well off compared to other people in my country, but go to a school where most people are actually wealthy. Between both levels, I see that people cannot relate to the people below them in that regard, and it causes friction. Like when my friend and I organize a holiday together, she doesn't understand why I get annoyed when she wants to wait until the last minute to book tickets because she genuinely doesn't care whether they're 50 or 500 euros. Or when my partner's family's car got stolen, they didn't bother getting a reimbursement from the insurance because it was too annoying to set up. This means people also sometimes don't reimburse you when you pay for lunch because they already forgot about this. And for them $30 is nothing, so why would it be for you? And they don't notice when you get them a really nice gift because all the gifts they get are really nice. This isn't malicious at all, just a genuinely different perception of reality. Feeling like you can't talk about certain things with people who don't make as much. I'm not rich, but I make more than some friends. There have been times when I'll tell them about something and I get a sarcastic "must be nice" reception. Mister, I wear 2 socks a day over here. Proper allocation of investments, assets and tax planning are actually things you need to think about a lot, or hire someone else to think about, which in itself is something to think about. Along these lines, accidentally having 6 or 7 figures in your checking account because you haven't been paying close attention lately and missing out on interest or investment gains. Figuring out how to give your kids everything they want without turning them into spoiled brats who are messed up for life. Warren Buffett said it best: leave the children enough so that they can do anything, but not enough that they can do nothing. My rich friend has no kids, so he's trying to figure out how to spend all his money before he dies so it doesn't go to some cousins he doesn't like. If I just mention something I like, he'll buy it for me immediately. It's ridiculous. Your friend kind of sounds like Bilbo. My boss is a pretty significantly wealthy guy, and his family in general is very wealthy and looking in from the outside when he's in his venue drinking with people. There's definitely a problem of people taking advantage of being your friend for freebies and privilege over your staff. Cannot imagine going through life with that many fake people trying to get something. My husband has a rich acquaintance who was just agonizing about buying a $5 million yacht, which will probably be used a handful of times a year. So he decided to buy only a $3 million yacht instead. I can't wrap my mind around it. I'm working middle class and for a while dated this girl from a rich family. She had been bought a clothing boutique store to run. She basically used it as her personal wardrobe. What I found weird was we never paid for anything. When we went out, entry was free, drinks were free, food was free. However, we never had any alone time. Everything for free meant the owner and colleagues sat with us. Go for a quiet drink? Nope. Owner was with us and every other extremely wealthy person joined in. Though it sounds all good, I think never getting your own time wore her down. She was always exhausted as she felt she had to represent her family at all times. She also could not comprehend why I would not go out some nights because I had work. Everything was free for her, so money was not an issue. My mother married a wealthy man with some very wealthy friends. One friend in particular comes from a large old money family that over the years had become very suspicious of outsiders trying to marry in for $. Their solution was to marry within the family, lots of cousins marrying each other, and so they began having issues with inbreeding and children being born mentally disabled because of it. This friend told me the family even founded a hospital center to treat and house these family members who were, in his words, what the family called affected. Can't you just date someone before admitting you have a ton of money? A friend of mine married into a family that has old money. Was never my friend's intention. Just turned out that the awesome down-to-earth person friend married was from serious old money. Two of the adult children in the family are currently trying to stop their parent from buying random houses for other rich families' kids. They don't even want the money. They want the parent to invest in philanthropy in the local community. Parent won't do it and just wants the rich kids from other families to be grateful to them. So somewhere out there, some people my age from a wealthy family are getting a free house from another wealthy family. Meanwhile, my partner's unemployment ran out. We have about 2 months runway before we have nothing. We're picking groceries carefully to save a few dollars. Houses in our area have gone up $50K in the past year and we may as well be renters forever. It's surreal. That just sounds like the behavior of people who squander old money and lose family fortunes. This may not necessarily be a problem, but something I didn't realize until later in life is that wealth is always relative. I live in NYC, and upper middle class here is wealthy anywhere else. I know someone with a $3.4 million apartment and a $900K year income and they don't even register as wealthy here, and sometimes are quietly wistful about what they don't have, while understanding how ridiculous that sounds. I know someone else worth $60M plus and they are definitely wealthy, but then there's a whole other social level above that, which are the multi-$100 million people, and everyone knows who is who. The $60 million has a few houses and charters a private jet a few times a year, while the $200 million has estates and a NetJets card for use on a whim, or owns a plane, though honestly NetJets can be more convenient. The $60 million said to me once after a few drinks and without a trace of irony, "You know, if I had just gotten to $100 million, maybe $120 million, then I could have really done something." To be clear, all of these people are as happy as anyone else, and yes, money solves a lot of inconveniences. If you need to go to the for example, you call from your car on the way over and an ambassador will meet you at the entrance to rush you up directly to see a doctor. But from inside, it's impossible to not see that there are people who are levels above you, and there are a surprising number of levels. Long story short, a family friend tried to buy a house, something like $5 mil, signed the papers and everything. The owners sold it to someone else out from under him, and instead of going to court they paid him to walk away. So he tried to buy a house and earned $1 million. When you form friendships after you've got money, you often question if the friendships would survive a loss in wealth. I specifically don't mention money or career paths to new people as I don't want them to think I'm flaunting, and I also don't want them to be friends with me for that reason only. Gradually people learn as I'll let them in more, but that only happens when I know I can trust someone. I've seen cases where your private life eventually becomes a full-time job for someone else. You often have people or a team who do things like arrange repairs to your home, line manage your household cleaners and gardeners, get your shopping, book your holidays, sort your car, look after your PR if you do something dumb and the media come knocking, even book music lessons for your kids. You are doing nothing for yourself except accruing wealth. You will also have accountants, lawyers, and whatnot at your beck and call. The primary function of the accountant and the lawyer is to let you fiddle your taxes and pay as little as possible. And you've gotta be able to trust them all. Kinda rich guy here, upper middle. After getting a high-rise apartment where all my walls are windows, I wanted to get a nice, big butt TV. I wanted an OLED, but my apartment is too bright because, again, all my walls are windows. So I had to make do with a QLED instead. I'm aware. This is a dagger through the heart. Not for me, but for you, because I purchased the LG C1 and highly recommend it. I'm sorry you had to miss out. I'll make sure I enjoy it a little more now for those who can't. I have no idea what to buy my father for his birthday or Christmas or Father's Day because he's well off enough. I usually get him a pack of smokes and a Kit Kat bar, which he then ends up sharing with me. Okay, I'm actually going to answer the question seriously. For context, I was born in a wealthy family, not obscenely rich, but well off. I'm perfectly aware that these problems are frivolous compared to what others have to go through, and I don't feel sorry for myself at all. But you asked, so here it goes. 1. Never really being sure whether your partner actually loves you or tolerates you because your money makes their life easier at times. 2. Having all your accomplishments invalidated by the fact that you have money. I'm the first to recognize that I haven't had to face most of the barriers that others had, that I'm benefiting from incredible privilege. I'm eternally grateful for that. That said, I still think I have at least a bit of merit for the things I've done. I've known other people born into wealth who haven't done crap with their lives because they take everything for granted and think success is owed to them. 3. Alternatively, having all your everyday life problems brushed away. For example, I understand that suffering from mental health issues is a lot easier when you can afford therapy, but it's still FKN hard at times and money doesn't magically make those go away overnight. 4. As a woman, it can make it hard to navigate relationships because a lot of men still identify with the breadwinner role. 5. The general guilt that comes with recognizing your privilege. I see a lot of my friends struggle with crippling debt and financial issues. I know I'm not personally responsible for this and there isn't much I can do beyond helping out here and there, but it's very guilt-inducing to see how much this system is rigged against them while simultaneously making it easier for me. That's it for my rich person problems. If they know you are rich, they expect you to pay more than what is the price. I once worked at a resort and there everything included the service charge, so tips weren't expected, but when a rich couple known in the city arrived, all the staff was bitching about how they never tipped, even though no one at the resort does. From my experience of working a day with a billionaire, just not being able to live a normal life, having a beer in an ordinary bar, having normal conversations not revolved about work, having time for a simple walk and so on. Having the awkwardness of going out with family, friends or partying and paying, like I'm not trying to flex, just doing the right thing. When you go out with me, I pay, it's nothing and I just want to hang out with you. I grew up wealthy, but not obscenely rich. Here's a few. 1. Personally, I find it hard to accept the fact that it's very unlikely that I'll make the same amount my parents did. 2. It's sometimes awkward when people realize that my family is wealthy, especially in college with a lot of left-wing people. 3. It was hard for my parents growing up to not spoil me, though personally I think they did a very good job. Saying no to your kid when you easily have the means to say yes with little cost to yourself is hard. 4. It feels like a lot of your issues get downplayed because you're wealthy. I've been struggling with mental health for the past few years and a lot of the times people's attitude is that when you're wealthy you don't have problems. It can feel very dismissive. I don't want this to sound like complaining, as I'm grateful for how I was raised, just observations. I had a really rich friend when I was younger, and she usually hosted our outings because I was too embarrassed to have her see my house and not be able to reciprocate. Her mom would drop us off at the mall and hand me a $50 bill. Wouldn't take no for an answer. My mom talked to hers and agreed that the next hangout would be hosted by us. I was humiliated by how poor we were and terrified of the judgment I was sure I would get. I did my best to try to make it as entertaining as possible with the little we had. So since it was in October, I decided we should carve pumpkins when she was over. She was absolutely elated. Her parents would never let her carve a pumpkin because it didn't mesh with their mansion's aesthetics and the neighbors might see, and that it'd make the maid's job hard. I guess jack-o'-lantern carving is a poor person activity. She loved it and lamented over the fact she wouldn't be able to do it at her home. TLDR, can't carve a pumpkin. This is quite lovely. You were able to give her an experience she wouldn't get otherwise. Growing up poor, we do learn what really matters. Spending time with someone is a gift too. Also, carving pumpkins is fun as heck. Having to tune two Steinway concert grand pianos, worth $195,000 each, in the spacious living room every year, even though no one in the house knows how to play them. Note, they have the pianos tuned at least once per year to keep them in shape. Once or twice per year they hire a professional pianist to play them for social events. Not so much a problem. but anecdote from something similar. I am friends with a guy who was interested in my car collection. I'm not rich, I worked as a mechanic for a while, and wanted to get into something similar. Drunk bids on an auction with Steve McQueen's motorbike, spends around $130k to win it, promptly forgets. Fast forward 2 months and the bike arrives at the docks for collection, and he realizes that 1. He won the auction, and 2. Has nowhere to store as his waterfront house and his inner city cafe is being renovated. Cue Steve McQueen's bike sitting at my place for a few months before going on display in his cafe. So, to clarify, I did not grow up rich. I grew up low middle class, and my husband's father, may he rest in peace, was very wealthy. When he passed away, my husband inherited his house and money, so we moved into the house with his mom. Being wealthy is still very new territory for me, but here are some of the more frivolous problems I've come to recognize over the past year. Bringing people over to your house feels like you're showing off or flaunting. We have a very big house with several bathrooms, and my husband and I sleep in a bedroom the size of our old apartment with a luxury bathroom. We also have a built-in movie theater and lots of other rich people house features. I feel slightly embarrassed bringing my friends, especially the ones financially struggling, over because I feel like I'm bragging and I absolutely hate it. Relating to my first point, the guilt I feel for being given such a privilege is a lot. I didn't earn any of it, and yet here I am. I have health insurance for the first time in my life. I'm not starving, and we have the money to buy lots of luxury items. Yet I see my friends have financial problems, and it kills me knowing there is very little I can do beyond helping out in small ways. I'm not the one who deals with this. My husband does, but all the different bills, bank accounts, trust fund, and all of the other things his father left behind. When a wealthy person passes, a lot of important but tedious things are now the responsibility of the family members who inherited them. We still don't have everything in order. Having such a huge house is difficult, especially when you suffer from chronic illnesses that make everything in general more difficult. Walking from my bedroom all the way upstairs can be torture on days when flare-ups are bad. Don't even get me started on the cleaning. So many different rooms and spaces and drawers and carpets that need to be cleaned. Luckily we don't have kids yet, so it isn't too bad, but it's still pretty tough when you have chronic pain. Mental health problems do not go away with money. It does eliminate potential mental health issues that are directly caused by financial problems, but aside from that, they are still there. They may be managed with medicine or therapy, but some issues cannot be fixed. We are still experiencing the grief of losing my husband's father and the depression and post-traumatic stress that came with it. I still struggle with mental health disorders and PTSD and disordered eating. Even the best health insurance can't fix years of trauma, sexual abuse, and disorders. Like I said, these are extremely frivolous compared to what others deal with or even what I used to deal with. I just wanted to answer Up's question as honestly as I could, and give some insight. My 2 cents as far as cleaning etc goes, it's part of the expense of owning the house. Get a cleaning person, get a lawn care company, get the pool guy, if you have kids get a nanny, etc. Money is there to make your life easier, and it's not wrong to use it that way to save yourself time or effort. I grew up poor. Father worked in flea market, and I make mid $300 now, and household income is around $450k. Wouldn't say I'm filthy rich or anything, but I have seen both sides of the coin. The main thing I noticed is this: you compare yourself to your peers, and when you're wealthy, your peers are wealthy, and you often feel like you're falling behind your friends, even when you're at 5-10x median income. I went to a top MBA, and many of my close friends are freaking killing it. Millions of dollars in startup equity, consulting partners, directors at firm. I compare myself to these people, not the people I knew growing up. I remember wanting to impress my high school friends and peers when I started this journey, but honestly I haven't even thought about them in a decade. I'm actually leaving a job I enjoy that paid $235 $250k for a new job because I felt like I needed more money and more senior title. I often feel just average. I remember growing up and thinking if I made $60k by 40 I'd be rich. I guess that's be around $90k now, inflation adjusted, and I'm only 34. Second thing I noticed is this: Rich people live in rich neighborhoods, which tend to eat up a lot of income. If I stay in Manhattan, or if I move to Westchester, minimum I can spend on a house and live near my friends and peers is like $1.4 million. I can't really move to a local area because my job mostly only exists in NYC. Then with daycare costs and private schools, NYC public school system is crap. Not that much left over, even with moderate spending habits elsewise. But look, compared to being poor, having money is great. I have outsourced everything I hate doing. I can afford healthy food and fitness. I walk to work for a 12-minute commute. I take taxis everywhere and don't need to take mass transit. My apartment is huge. I go on multiple international vacations a year. I have a high degree autonomy at work. I'll retire early. I enjoy the status that comes with all this. I still remember being a low status poor kid and having people at the front desk follow me around because they thought I'd steal. I have much better friendships and relationships than I had growing up. Have a kick-butt wife. So I guess no real complaints. This dynamic doesn't stop there. Those FONG directors spend most of their time working with FONG VPs, so that's who they end up comparing themselves to. Getting off the hedonistic treadmill is not easy. Offending your friends when they complain about being in the crap and you're like, well, if you want I can help out. They just wanted to vent and it wasn't my place to offer. Bad move. My family has had a lot of money for a few generations. I personally have like none, but I've never had to worry about money for my entire life. I would say the biggest issue I have is becoming completely spoiled rotten. I got out of high school with a severe C addiction. I've been to rehab for it multiple times. Nothing ever stuck until the last time I went. I've been to multiple colleges and dropped out because of my addiction issues. I never had to pay for any of the tuition and I've realized I took it all for granted. I started selling drugs and thank God never got caught. But I needed money for blow and when my parents realized my addiction they refused to give me money, but paid for my room and board, insurance, about 5 cars I wrecked on Xanax. It's been a rough road. My grandparents got into a huge mortgage fraud lawsuit with the government for about $800 million. They won it, but it left a serious scar on my family and if anyone googles my name or my family's they'll see the news articles about the accusations. I was very successful selling drugs and never got caught or arrested and as I got sober I stopped obviously. But my friends from less well-off families that I worked with did, and they don't have the resources to pay for good lawyers. I look back on those times in my life and realize I was completely out of my element but I sort of enjoyed the social aspect of it. Now that I'm clean and doing good I have to worry about women who like me only for the promise of being secure later on in life. There's a lot that goes into dealing with people and understanding who is there just for the perks of being around someone who can take care of them. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.